Hey everybody, welcome to the Lifestyle Practice Podcast. I'm Steve Graaff. I will be your host today. Thanks for joining in. I've got a little story for you. A man long ago once owned a large farm and lived a stable life. One day, he heard stories about people who had become rich by finding diamond mines. The idea excited him, and he began to feel that his life was lacking. Believing he could do the same, he sold his farm and set out to search for diamonds all across the world. He traveled to many places, spending all his time and money looking for diamonds. But no matter where he went, he found nothing. After years of searching and facing many setbacks, he ran out of resources and died without ever finding what he was looking for. Meanwhile, the person who bought his farm one day noticed a strange rock on the property. He kept it and later learned it was a diamond in the rough. More of these rocks were soon found on the land, and it turned out the farm was sitting on one of the largest diamond mines ever discovered. The original owner had left behind what he was seeking all along. If he had taken time to explore his own land more carefully, he might have found the wealth that he was searching for. You may have heard this story or some variation of it in the past, but basically it's a reminder that sometimes the opportunities we want are already within our own reach. So don't be this farmer. I want to share with you a couple super easy opportunities that are in your practice right now, within your reach, that can make a huge difference in your practice. I actually discussed some of these briefly last week in our online webinar workshop. If you missed that, I think you'll really want to watch it. We recorded it, so if you want to reach out, I can send you that. But for those of you who did listen in, this will be a little bit of a follow-up and maybe some motivation to get you to act if you haven't yet. This is also a shout out to my friend Dr. Campbell, who recently shared several of these points. Each of us, even if we think our practice is running at a high level, have areas for improvement, and oftentimes small corrections in our practices can have big cumulative results. I want to discuss a couple of these low-hanging fruits, the easiest things that you can switch right now in your practice to turn things around. First one is your collections rate. Do you know what your collections rate is? How much money are you leaving on the table? The average collections rate of a practice in the United States is around 90 to 92%. That means, for many practices, that 1 out of every 10 days you work, you're working for free. Just think about that for a second. 1 in every 10. If you increase this average up to 98 or 99%, which is totally doable, and assuming you're an average size practice doing about $800K in annual collections, that is going to increase your collections $56,000 on the year. That's right. You haven't done a single extra fillings, haven't seen a single extra patient, or even turned on your handpiece, and you're improving $56,000 on the year. So you need to make sure your collections policy is solid. Are all claims being sent out properly? Are claims being followed up on? Are secondaries going out? Are all the patients paying at the time of treatment? The most common mistakes here, in my experience, are front desks not following up on outstanding claims. It's easy to post checks that come in the mail, but what about those ones that are just sent out and kind of disappear into the void? You never hear back. Also, denials are often mishandled, or they just get put on the back burner until you or your front desk has the time, and soon they're forgotten. In working with dentists, I've found that lower collection rates usually come in an office where the front desk does not have clear marching orders from the doctor, and the doctor's not following up with them. You are not just a clinician. You own a small business, and you need to run your office like one. So the first low-hanging fruit is a better collections policy. So the first low-hanging fruit is a better system of collections. Another low-hanging fruit for many practices is an unoptimized fee schedule. If we took a poll to see how many of you have raised your fees at the beginning of this year, it probably wouldn't be very many. Most doctors do not increase their fees sufficiently, which helps with out-of-network patients, and they don't properly negotiate their fees with insurance companies to a stronger position, and sometimes just drop the lower plans when they really should. If you increased your fees 10 to maybe 15%, which is doable with the right strategies and the right professional help, that's about $80,000 to $120,000 increase per year for an average practice again. Again, you haven't done a single thing more. This is just getting more for the stuff you already do. If your increased percentage was even less than that, you're still going to have a huge impact. Next one, do you know your hygiene cancellation rate? Pull up your schedule when you get to work and count the number of holes you have in your hygiene schedule from the last 2 weeks. The national average is about 16%, which is 1 out of 6 hygiene visits is either canceled or the patient no-shows. If you have 2 columns of hygiene with 1-hour appointments, that's almost 3 hygiene misses per day. Now, if you took this problem and reduced it from 16%, the average, down to 8%, so just cut it in half, a very small improvement, 8%, that's $30,000. Again, you're doing nothing extra yourself. You're just tightening up your systems and making sure your hygienists, who you're already paying, have less empty chairs. Doctor side cancellations are even more costly because your production is a lot more valuable in hygiene. If you reduce them by the same amount, say 8%, that's about $50,000 more production per year. How are you confirming your appointments? Are you filling holes in the schedule? How are you handling absent patients? Your front desk performance on each of these items is either losing you or gaining you $80,000 to $100,000 just on missed appointments each year. I did a podcast on this, I think about 2 months ago, on how to specifically lower your cancellations. Feel free to go back and listen to that. How is your front desk doing on phones? If you're like most offices, you probably don't even know what's being said. You don't even have an idea of the tone of what's being said. The average conversion of a phone call with a new patient calling your office and actually that patient being seen for an appointment is about 1/3, 33%. If your front desk knocks the person's socks off by the way they speak to them, how they build rapport, and how they talk you up, this number can totally be increased to a 2/3 conversion, which results in over about $100,000 in the average dental practice over a year's amount of time. So think about that. Just those phone skills can make that much difference. Do you see why we say that your front desk has to be a rock star? Have you held training on this crucial skill? Or are you just hoping that whatever goes on up front is all right? Don't leave this to chance, okay? I'll share a final but related low-hanging fruit. Case acceptance. About 40% of people who are prescribed dental treatment actually end up having some procedure done. Why is this so low? Mostly, in my opinion, it's because doctors are not communicating to what the patient really wants. Also, the clarity and trust that's needed is not there. And also, likely whoever is presenting finances is not making things simple. The whole process of treatment and financial presentation is underwhelming in most practices, leading to this very low number of patients who actually get their needed treatment done. If you could increase this average from 40 to just 60%, you're increasing your personal production 20%, if I'm good at my math, which is $180,000 in an average sized practice. So maybe really committing yourself to honing your soft skills, teaching your front desk to simplify finances and find solutions, create more urgency. These things are actually really worth it after all. So those are just 5 systems that you are doing all day, every day. But if you improve each of these systems from just that national average to doing better, not perfect, but just better than average, you have a potential increase of over $600K in an average sized office. And yes, your costs almost don't change with that increase in collections. 50% of us listening to this are going to be lower than average. So the potential upside is even bigger than that. You may be saying, no, I've got this all down. Our practice is a tight ship. You can be doing well, but I promise there is a lot of meat on the bone in the things you're already doing in your practice that it can increase your bottom line significantly. So I threw a few different systems at you today, but go to your practice when it's quiet, commit some time to thinking about this, review all of your systems. or at least the 5 that I spoke about today, and find what is sitting under your nose. It's too easy for us to start thinking that success is for somebody else in some other practice, in some other demographic. And in our minds, we're kind of like that farmer that thinks we have to go somewhere outside of where we're already at in order to do well. But that's just not the case. There is a ton of opportunity right inside your practice right now. Diamonds, so to speak, within your grasp, if you just look for them and address the problems. It takes a lot of discipline for you to teach and train your team and then to follow up and make sure the training sticks. But I promise it's worth it. If you've looked at this, if you've tried these things and you're just not sure where you're lacking, or maybe you know where you're lacking, but you haven't been able to get the results with your team or your practice, and you're just not getting from A to B. That's why we're here. That's why we do these podcasts and work with dentists one-on-one. So just reach out and we'll chat. You can email us at Derek, Steve, and Matt at thelifestylepractice.com, or you can just visit our website, thelifestylepractice.com, and there's a little form that you can tell us about your practice or your situation. It gets emailed over to us and we'll respond right away. With that, everybody, have a nice week. Peace.